The Rams are the Super Bowl champions, man. Matthew Stafford has proved me wrong. He's proven me wrong a little bit. I'm about to get into that in a minute. I don't think he's 100% proved me wrong, but I'll give him this credit. He won. I did not think he could be the quarterback that could go out there and win in the big spots. Like I said on this show, and like I've said on many podcasts and on Twitter before, I didn't think he was that guy. I have never in my entire life thought that Matthew Stafford was a bad quarterback. I never once called him trash. I've always thought that he was the top 10 quarterback. Maybe he was 9 or 10, but I always thought he was top 10 because of the talent. I just didn't feel like he was the guy that could take a team over the hump, which is what the Rams needed to do. The Rams and Jared Goff, as terrible as he is, got to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and he couldn't get them over the hump. He took them over the hump. This wasn't the championship that the Rams won in spite of Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was one of the main reasons they won this championship. I'm going to give my props to him. In my personal opinion, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, and I'll get into that in a minute. But as far as him beating the you can't do this, you can't do that, there's nothing else we can say about him when it comes on that front. You know, he went in there first week of the season, took out his division rival in the Arizona Cardinals, took them completely out of the game. It was a blowout from front to back. And this is the Cardinals team that was 7-0 to start this season. And they completely crumbled and got eliminated right away. Then the most impressive to me was that game against Tom Brady and the champs. Had him down 27-3. Now, granted, they did everything possible. Even he had a couple bad throws in there to bring the Patriots back into that game. But when Tom Brady tied the game up, a lot of teams fold. A lot of teams like, well, it's Tom Brady. There's nothing we can do. He went down there, went for it. Big 70-yard bomb to Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are the type of plays that you want to see from your franchise quarterback. You know, I love Justin. I love Justin Fields. I hope one day he can make a play like that. That's the type of things you want to see. That's the reason that Les Snead traded all those damn draft picks for him and then go out there. And even though he damn near gave the game winning NFC Championship game, but that's the things you got to live with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a gunslinger, but he had way more ups than downs this year. And in this Super Bowl, he threw 2 picks. Both I wouldn't say either was a bad pick. The second one wasn't even his fault. That was on the wide receiver. The first one, that was a real play. He thought he could, go up there and, they could go up there and grab the ball. It was really essentially a punt. But that 15-yard drive, to me, at the end of that game, first of all, it's the longest drive in Super Bowl history. That's legacy cementing right there. And we're going to talk about legacies with everybody involved on this Rams team because that's the one thing the Super Bowl does. That's what championships do. And I hate when people say, oh, I hate ring culture. Now, I'm going to talk about that for a minute because I don't think that just because you don't win a championship that you're not a great player. I think that's bullshit. Charles Barkley is not any less than any other player because he doesn't have a ring. Dan Marino isn't less than any other quarterback because he didn't win a ring. When it comes to legacies, when it comes to having these conversations, you got to have the stats. And championships are the number one thing in there that matters. Herm Edwards said you play to win the game. If you're not going out there to play for championships, what are you really doing? So this is what Stafford went out there. That was a legacy drive going out there when they really had nothing going in the second half. Cincinnati had every chance to actually put that game away, and they didn't. And him noticing, and also you got to look at what he was dealing with. He had a second starting tight end playing. The starter was out. Odell went out in the first half with a torn ACL, and I hope Odell gets better. The Bengals did one of the 3 things I said they need to do last week when it comes to winning the Super Bowl. They had eliminated that running game. Cam Akers was nowhere to be found. Sony Michel was nowhere to be found. And he went out there and said, look, I don't have these options, but I'm going to throw it to Mr. Reliable, Cooper Kupp. And Kupp and Stafford went on a tear. And Cincinnati Bengals fans, I don't want to hear it about those flags at the end of that drive. Were they probably a little ticky-tacky? Maybe a little bit. The one on Cooper Kupp was definitely a pass interference. But let's talk about the T. Higgins play. T. Higgins took Jalen Ramsey's head off when he went into the end zone. So if you want to be real, that was not only pass interference, that was also face mask. So that touchdown should have never happened if you want to argue about them final calls. I thought the officiating, for the most part, as bad as they've been all season, I think this was an ultra bad, maybe the worst season I've ever seen from NFL officials. I think they did pretty good. But Stafford went over there, shut him up, won the game. And I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think a lot of people are saying, oh, is he a Hall of Famer? He's definitely getting a gold jacket now. I think this puts him. We got to see. We can see what he can do over the next couple of years, maybe 3-4 years. If he's able to win an MVP, if he's able to win a couple more championships, maybe. But as of right now, as of when I'm recording this on February 16, 2022, he's not a Hall of Famer. He doesn't have any first any all pros and any first teams. He never won an MVP, only one Pro Bowl. Granted, I understand he played in Detroit, but that has nothing to do with individual accolades. So I don't think he's a Hall of Famer right now, and I think it's very, very immature. Very premature to say that. And I think Richard Sherman put it best. When it comes to players who should be in the Hall of Fame, it's franchise changers. And I don't think he's there yet. But at the same time, he has a lot of time left to play. He's only 33, 34 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing that the Rams are going to do, they're going to throw that ball. And now that monkey's off his back. I'm going to compare it a little bit to how the Milwaukee Bucks couldn't get over that hump for the last couple of years. Giannis is dominating, but let's not forget, just a year and a half ago, the conversation was Giannis ain't got no bag. Giannis don't have no moves. When is he actually going to do it? He's the Greek fraud. And then he got that monkey off his back, and that just took him into the Milwaukee Bucks to another level. So I think this can possibly do the same for Matthew Stafford, because there's nothing you can really say about him. He can go out there and he can win the game. Yes, he's going to throw some picks. Yes, he's going to do things that's going to fuck them up, time to time. But that's what gunslingers do. That's what Brett Favre did. Brett Favre threw damn near more interceptions than he threw touchdowns, and everybody loves this motherfucker. So that's what happens when you have gunslingers, man. So I have to give it to Matthew Stafford. You have somewhat defeated me. And I say somewhat because I still, you haven't really catapulted on any of my lists. But you did what I said you couldn't do. I came on this podcast every damn week of this season. He can't do it. Think I'm going to pick him against Aaron Rodgers? Think I'm going to pick him against Tom Brady? Think I'm going to pick him against Patrick Mahomes? He shut me up on that front. He went over there and he did it, man. So salute to Matthew Stafford. He's a champion. Now when it comes to the rest of the legacy, we're talking about legacy. We're just talking about Matthew Stafford's legacy. Let's talk about Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is a freak of nature. I've said this all season. I've said this for years. There's only one player in the entire NFL I'm taking over Aaron Donald, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He went out there and he had a generational, not just season, but a game. At the end, that second half, he said, look, fuck this. I'm not losing this game. And on that last drive, getting the sack to end the game, he was just dominant. And I really feel like there could have been a conversation. I didn't think Matthew Stafford was going to MVP regardless, because once he threw them picks and just how the offense kind of stalled in the second half, I knew it was going to either come down to Cooper Kupp or Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald had a great claim to that. And I think this just solidifies his legacy. I don't think that he's the greatest defensive player of all time. I don't even think he's top 5 yet. Just because there's a lot of great defensive players in the history of this game. I still think number 1 is Lawrence Taylor. You got to put LT in there. You got to put the Dick Buckuses in there. You got to put the Deion Sanders in there. We can be out here all day. But he's hands down the best defensive player of this generation. And there's nothing else you can say about him. Multiple-time defensive player of the year. He's finally got that Super Bowl ring, man. He's solidified. Now, of course, the rumors have been coming out a Super Bowl weekend that he might call it quits. Rodney Harrison brought that up in the pregame. And he didn't really shoot it down after the championship in the postgame press conference. He didn't shoot it down. And they're having their parade today, and there was a clip from the parade where they're talking about running it back. And Sean McVay looking super drunk. So let's run it back. And AD paused for a minute. He paused for like a long time before finally saying, yeah, let's run it back. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. Nigga said a lot of things off tequila, and he looked like he just didn't want to leave the crowd hanging. But I do think it's a legitimate chance that he does retire. And this is all these things he's accomplished. He hasn't even been in the league a decade yet. 8 seasons, that's incredible. As a fan, I hope he doesn't retire because I love watching him play the game of football, and I hope he continues it, man. So that's going to be something we're going to see about what's going to happen this offseason. It's one of the offseason things to look at. And the third one, man, Odell. I got to give it up for my man, Odell Beckham Jr. He's been one of my favorite wide receivers from the minute he got into this game. New York didn't appreciate him. The Browns didn't appreciate him. Not only did the Browns not appreciate him, they actually had us believe that he fell off because of that criminal, that overrated, that sober Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, had people thinking that he really fell off, which he didn't. And to see him with the guy who can actually throw, and he just reinvented himself and reminded people that I'm a top 5 wide receiver in this game when I'm healthy. Had a dominant postseason. I really feel like this game would not have been close whatsoever if Odell did not get hurt. He was already running, had a touchdown on the first drive. He went out there, had 60 yards receiving before he got hurt. I felt like he could have had a claim to the Super Bowl MVP. Now, it's really sad what happened to him with the ACL. But at least he was able to win his championship. Now, we don't know how this affects his free agency. He's going to be a free agent in a couple weeks. He's gonna probably be out. I think the earliest he'll probably be able to come back is November, and that's being generous. I mean, ACLs aren't as tough as how they used to be a couple years ago, but at the minimum, you're gonna miss at least 9 months. I mean, Cam Akers is just some shit that we've never seen before. So I wouldn't. That's definitely not the standard. And this is also the second time that Odell has torn his ACL in the same knee, so that's something to look forward to look at also. But he's just, to me, he there's nothing else you can say about him. He's a gamer, he's a winner, and he's a Super Bowl champion. Now, so when you talk about Odell, you got to refer him as a Super Bowl champion, man. And I feel like I said last week, the reason why I picked the Rams to win this game, because there was just so much riding for Matthew Stafford, so much riding for Odell Beckham Jr., so much riding for Aaron Donald and Sean McVay. And Sean McVay, man, the youngest Super Bowl champion head coach of all time. And there's also rumors about him calling it quits. You know, he's about to get married. He's got a drop dead gorgeous fiance. You know, he's dropped, you know, he can get, there's rumors that he's going to retire and just ride off to the sunset. And now we heard that ESPN might be offering him that they'll chase them to be on that Monday Night Football crew, and maybe, you know, kind of replace what John Gruden had after he left. And I think there's a chance that might happen too. So the whole makeup of how this LA Rams team is going to look next year is really up in the air. You know, they've got a lot of free agents. You know, Whitworth, you know, he's going to retire. And then we got to see what's going to happen with Aaron Donald and Sean McVay, and then Odell's free agency status. So we don't know what's going to happen, man. But for now, they are the Super Bowl champions, and we got to give it up to them. And also got to give up to Les Snead. He took the unconventional way to a championship. He even wore a shirt today at the parade that said, "Fuck those picks," which I love. The gamble paid off. We always said, and I said it, other media members have said it, trade a lot to get Matthew Stafford. Trade a lot to get Von Miller. Trade a lot to get to get Jalen Ramsey. All that paid off. Once you win a championship, none of that other things matter. And I love aggressive GMs and I love aggressive front offices because it means that they care about winning. And so my hats off to them. My hats off to the entire Los Angeles Rams organization, man. And a great first year so far.